And you use the word, and because we're talking your economist hat, and Milton Friedman and all of those angles, talking about free economic principles and free markets, you use the word quasi-market.
Yes.
I want you to elaborate on that, and because there's so much behind the word, just the word quasi and market.
Yeah. For those not familiar with the term, quasi means semi. It's a semi-market. And the reason why it's not a true market is because we don't have the full operation of a market. Ultimately, how much a person with disability can spend on their support depends on their NDIA package, or if they happen to be a person of affluence, what they can personally afford to spend on their own support. On the supply side, we have some limitations there as well, especially once you go into regional and remote Australia. You're from Western Australia, you're very familiar with that issue.
Very much. And in your observation, has the market become more freer in the last decades when it was a state-run model to NDIS, and are we going towards more free markets or more open markets?
On balance, I think, yes, it's very clear that the NDIS is delivering superior outcomes for people with disabilities. It's in part because more money is going into the system, as the Productivity Commission revealed in its original report. The disability service provision going back to the previous decade was fragmented, was inadequate. Quality was not always consistent. Now, to some extent, that continues to be the case. We know from the regular matters which are reported to the NDIS Commission that it's not all high quality service provision in the sector.
And I'm just extending that same argument of more freer markets. Is the hypothesis that the more freer the markets are, the more open markets are, the quality of service provision improves?
Some would argue that. You mentioned Milton Friedman, the guru of free enterprise. I must say I'm more of a Keynesian man myself, but it's not necessarily the case that the market does improve. To get the pure outcomes, to get the right outcomes, the pure outcomes, you need a pure market. And of course, it's not a pure market. It is a market which is regulated and controlled by government. What a person can spend predominantly depends on what the NDIA gives them. And sometimes the NDIA's decision making can only be described as idiosyncratic.